Hi everybody, I'm Sarah Cray and I teach watercolor, and I wanted to give you a little insight on the process of my journal paintings. Usually in the morning when I come into the studio, the first thing I do is I paint in my journal. It's free paint, it's just for fun, it's just for me, and it keeps my creativity going. So I just wanted to give you an insight on how I approach it, okay?
Sounds great.
So a lot of the questions I get most are, how do you decide what to paint? And I know that you all have photos that you have taken or you have screenshot of, I'm going to paint this one day. I'm going to paint this one day. And so what I do is I do that exact same thing and I separate it into seasons, because I usually like to paint what the current season is. It gets me in the
spirit of the mood of the
spirit.
season.
I didn't want to be doing a shimmy while saying it gets me in the mood. So, so it makes me feel aligned with whatever's happening in the world, right? So I separate it into season, and then all I do is I just scroll through, and then as soon as I see one where I go, yep, that's it, then I just go for it. So I don't overthink it. I'm not sure, oh, how long? You know what I mean? It's more just like whatever one grabs me right then, that is what I choose to paint.
Very go with the flow.
Very go with the flow. And I will also acknowledge too that, like, because this is my personal journal, I give myself complete permission to paint. When I'm creating projects for like the digital subscription and that kind of stuff, I'm very aware and intentional about using royalty-free photographs and like all of that kind of stuff, right? Because legally that's really important. And also I want to respect other artists. But because this is an opportunity for me to express myself, to learn, to grow, I give myself complete freedom. Okay?
Nice.
So this is where it's probably okay for you to use Pinterest as a source. If you were trying to resell your paintings or that kind of stuff, then using Pinterest as a source is not a great idea. Okay?
All right. All right.
So I've never painted this before. I was scrolling through my phone and I was just like, this one. Okay? It's fall, it's feeling good. And so it has a pretty simple composition. So then the first thing that I do once I look at a painting is I break it down into what is grabbing me. For me, what's grabbing me is the simple composition of the foliage line along with the colors of this. Okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to just do that composition sketch. Okay?
And we're done.
That's it. And then what I do is I think about how I would approach this painting. Whenever you do landscape paintings, you're going to work back to front. So I look, what is the color of the sky? Okay, that's like a very like kind of grayish bluish color. And then I'm going to do my foliage, and then I'll do my ground, and then I'll probably do my detail foliage. Okay. Now, just so you guys know, you can approach this a few different ways. Sometimes I just get the idea of the composition and feel of this, and then I don't really look at this anymore. I don't spend a lot of my time trying to recreate this painting exactly. I instead think, what is it about this picture that made me excited to paint it? And that is what I put into this painting, and everything else I don't really care that much about. So really what's grabbing me is this very beautiful foliage line right here. Okay?
All right.
So now that I have that, I tape off the edge of my paper, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint my sky. And I was going to do something else here, but I changed my mind. So that's why there's that little erased shadow there. Okay, using a larger brush, I'm going to do a gray sky. Now that got too dark, which is not the end of the world, because I'm just going to take clean water to lighten it. And then I'm going to spread this color all the way down to my horizon line, letting the color lighten in value, which it will do naturally if you're just using water to spread. Okay. And then when it's wet like this, let's grab some yellow. Let's grab some burnt orange, maybe a little bit of coral mixed with the gold.
Just that's a great color. Dang.
Yeah. Isn't that pretty?
Yeah.
And already we have like the
spirit of the thing.
The spirit of the painting, right? And then I'm going to take my foliage brush, because your foliage brush is going to create textures within it too. So I'm going to pick up some color on my foliage brush. And so by putting the foliage in, you can see that even though these are diffusing out, I'm still getting different marks, right? Which is kind of what we want. We want it to show that there are layers of trees and foliage here. And you can play with greens, you can play with golds and reds, like allow these different colors to have moments. Okay? I want this to maybe go a little bit taller because I'm looking at where this kind of water is bleeding. And you guys can decide. Sometimes it will go a lot taller than you anticipated, and you're like, oh, that's fine. Or you can kind of force it. Okay. That's it. Now
Beautiful.
I'm going to do the hill. Sorry, you said beautiful and I cut you off.
That's all right. I said it right as you were talking.
But you can go ahead and call it beautiful again.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you so much. Okay, and then I'm going to start to put in the ground here. And there's two different areas here from the reference photo. There's one like little hill that's connected right to this horizon line, and then there's another one in front. You can play with different ways to separate those two things. The easiest way to do it is with color and value. So I'm going to do a little bit more of a yellowish hill right here. And then right underneath the foliage line, I'm going to do a dark brown while it's wet, because that is going to separate the land between the trees and create a little hint of depth in between there. And this is where I get really playful with textures, and I'll just like drop in. You can drop in salt. You can use like a palette knife if you guys have been doing some atmospheric painting with me. You can use your chip brushes, like really anything just to create a like visual interest within the foreground here. And then I'm introducing a little bit more yellow into right here, right in the front, because if this stays too blue-green and the rest of my painting is yellow, it's going to feel very disjointed. So I need to have them connected in some way.
I want to make a call out for the brand new people watching this, Sarah.
Okay.
If you're just painting in your normal journal, you're going to have a drastically different time than if you're painting in a journal with watercolor paper pages. This probably will not turn out if you're just like, I'm going to paint in my regular writing journal.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're right. I guess I should have mentioned the fact that you need to have a watercolor journal in order to watercolor in your journal.
If you paint a lot, that makes sense. But like, if you're brand new to this, you're like, yeah, I'm just going to go paint in my journal.
No, that's a good call out.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's my ground. And then, because I like to do layers of foliage and I like to kind of work areas back and forth, I'm going to put more of this texture using my foliage brush. My paper is not totally dry. It's probably halfway dry at this point. And you'll notice that depending on how wet or dry your paper is, your paint is going to diffuse out differently. So when it's super wet, when you put that paint, it's going to really move, right? When it's halfway dry, wet or damp, that paint is going to slightly diffuse out, just kind of fuzz. And then when your painting is dry, that is when those marks are going to stay nice and sharp. And I like to make sure that I'm utilizing all three different dryness levels because they're going to give me different marks. Okay. And again, a lot of the times when I'm using reference photos, depending on the painting, but I'm kind of just like going with whatever is happening here instead of trying to force whatever the reference photo is doing. Let's grab some green. Use some bright orange. Let's see what that, oh yeah. Ooh, I like that. Now, right here in the middle of my painting, this part is pretty dry. This part is still damp. And you'll notice that when I'm layering and doing layers of this foliage mark, I'm not trying to cover every part. I'm just doing some of it here and there just to get a hint of that texture. But I don't want to cover the light value because letting the different layers poke out and be seen is how we're getting depth and dimension. Okay?
Okay. I said it before, but people can't see me shaking my head yes when you're talking, so I have to like be verbal and say, okay, you know. I do agree. Ooh, that's a good color.
This is, I think, Pyrrole orange, which is like a very vibrant, aggressive orange, which I kind of really love. Okay, now that feels really good. I can go back into my land. And this is the pace at which I am painting in my journal. Like the journal is an opportunity for me to just go. And by practicing painting quickly, you're teaching yourself how to look at things and make decisions quickly, which is an excellent tool to use in watercolor because watercolor is sometimes all about timing. Okay, and then while it's wet, sometimes I like to do a little swoop, 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 swoop. Kind of like, oh, maybe there's long grass or something in here. Okay. Let's add some swoops back there. But because this part is farther away, the swoops aren't going to be as obvious. Okay.
Perfect.
And let's actually add some yellow into some of this orange because that orange is like, whoa, brother. You know, I need to soften it just a little bit. And this is Quinacridone Gold that I'm using, which if you're using like a lemon yellow, the yellow is gonna be like vibrant. You know what I mean? That's why this yellow is a little bit softer. And there's nothing wrong with either. I'm just calling attention to the fact that it's like a more subdued yellow, like a gold yellow, as opposed to like a lemon yellow.
Gotcha.
Right. I love this background tree right here.
Yeah, it's very good.
So I'm going to kind of let this dry, and then I'm going to do the finishing detail marks within my painting. At this point, I get to utilize what is on my paper as a way to decide what is going to stay, what needs to be covered up, all of that kind of stuff. So because I really like that tree that's right there, I don't want to cover that up. If I didn't like that tree, then I can say, I'm going to do a big tree right in the foreground, right in the middle, and cover up that area I don't like. But because I really like that, and I really like what's happening on the left-hand side, I'm not going to do a lot of detail work up there. I really want that like foggy, misty, out of focus feel to stay. And so this is where I can go back and look at my reference photo and look at like branches and stuff like that and be like, okay, I can do a tree on the right-hand side. I like the little branches kind of peeking through. So I'm going to add that. So it can help with like details. Okay. So before I do that, I'm going to do one more layer of this dark brown kind of in here. And I love to use the dry brush technique just because it introduces a different texture with very little work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then let's do the same thing using like a dark green. And then if you want to do a couple little textures of grass or something, you can. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to take my liner brush And I really like the branches kind of peeking through. I'm going to do a light brown value because we're working in a light area. If I were to use like an almost black brown, it wouldn't match like the misty, foggy feel that I have going on. Now, don't be afraid to make branches wonky. They kind of go off to the side. You can skip a line, all of that kind of stuff. Let's kind of put some in this. Okay. And then you can take your foliage brush. You can do tighter foliage marks in between some of those branches, or maybe as if there's a little bit of leaves right on the edge, just a touch. Or maybe some of them are bare.
This might be a duh statement, but the final details like this are always my favorite part of these.
Mm-hmm. They really like bring it together.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm going to do a tree right here. What? A cone-bearing tree. What is that?
Conifer.
Conifer. Okay. So I can do the trunk. And sometimes when you put your trunks in, it goes wonky. So you see how that's not straight?
Yeah.
So whenever that happens, just when I put in my details here, I'm just going to straighten it out using the details. Okay? So don't stress if your trunk gets a little wonk. Also, trees are kind of wonky.
That's what I was going to say. There's a solid chance that you see more wonky trees than straight ones, you know?
Yeah, it just becomes a problem. Like the reason why I usually fix it is because it can affect your composition. So if it makes your painting feel lopsided, that's when you want to kind of adjust it. But if it doesn't, then you don't have to do anything to it. And that just felt like it needed something dark over here.
Beautiful.
And that's it.
It's lovely.
Like that's how I approach it. And so again, I guess the biggest thing to remember when it comes to doing these journal paintings are journals are an opportunity for you to explore and learn and try something. You have the benefit of being able to close it and turn the page, right? And so really allow yourself the freedom to explore different ideas within your journal. The other thing is allow yourself to also play with different ways of approaching a painting. You can do it like I did, where you just start with basic reference and composition, or you can follow the photo and try to make it more realistic. You can try and even simplify further by not utilizing a reference photo at all and just saying, I want to do a fall landscape, and that's it. I approach my paintings with all of those. Okay. So sometimes I have no reference photo. Sometimes I do, but it's just for basic layout. Sometimes I have a reference photo and I'm trying to follow it very closely. Do the mix, because those all take different creative muscles and different technical abilities. And so if you're interested in being able to create your own work, not have to follow tutorials anymore, create something original, paint whatever you want, all of that, those all take different skills. So you just have to work those up. Okay, which it's totally possible to do. It just takes time and practice. So if you can tell yourself, okay, I'm going to give myself 20 minutes every week just to paint in my journal, and I'm going to do this one specifically loose or do this one specifically really photo reference, like that's up to you. If you're wondering how I decide which ones to do, it's usually, I think about two different things. One is just like, what I'm in the mood for. And then the other one is how much time do I have? Okay. Those are what determine it.
What are the chances you can peel this tape for us?
Oh, that's what I'm doing.
All right.
That's why I filled in those spaces.
Gotcha.
Also, it's super nice to use a binder clip on your journals because it keeps it down. Okay. Ready?
Ready.
It's so satisfying.
Boom.
And there you go. Now I have this beautiful little fall painting. Okay, hopefully that gives you some understanding and insight on my journaling practice, and hopefully it will inspire you to do your own because it's just so great. It's so great for your creativity. It's so great for your mental health, and it's how you will build up skill set. Okay?
All right.
All right, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.